All right, and it looks like we are live. It is Saturday morning, 8 a.m. It's 8 a.m. over here on the East Coast, and this is the HODL review, and we are doing an amazing review today. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody bouncing in. Let me get my phone out here, and we want to make sure that we're streaming, make sure everything's great. Big announcements are definitely coming up here this coming week, and as I'd mentioned previously, and I've mentioned on other streams and etc. We are going to be going through a rebranding this week of the HODL Review. So the HODL Review channel will be changing names. However, the HODL Review show will be remaining. So all that will make a lot more sense once we actually get to that point. So let me just make sure I've got all of the chat and everything ready to go. And then we're going to kick it off and we're going to get started. So looks like everything is working, which I'm happy about. Hey, David D, what's going on? Let me make sure I'm muted over here. Whoops. There we go. So now I can monitor it multiple locations. Streaming looks solid, so I'm happy about that. Audio seems like it's coming in real well as well. So fantastic. So take a little bit. People start bouncing in. Uh, Yesterday or over the past week, there's been some big things happening, and actually, Ripple did respond to the lawsuit. I did receive a copy of the case that they presented. I haven't read it yet, so I think that's going to be really interesting to go through line item by line item and really identifying, what the response looks like. Oh, look at this. We're already starting to drop frames. Uh, this is the new OBS. So my CPU is solid. It's not supposed to drop frames anymore. There's supposed to be some dynamic uh, software running in the background with the frames. So, but we should be pretty good. And I just did another update this morning as I turned OBS on, and we should be solid. Doug Huff, good morning. Glad to see you on. So this is going to be great. We're going to go through and dig a little bit into Binance US. Now, it's interesting because Binance has been around for a little while, maybe about a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years at this point, or coming up on 2 years since Binance has been around, and Binance is considered to be one of the largest exchanges in the world. And sometimes when you see the presence like that, you start to take it for granted, based on exactly, what they do, what they've done, kind of where they're coming from, and sometimes maybe we overlook some of the important aspects of their business model and overlook some of the important aspects to us, the consumer, to us, the user of their product. And when we're investing, it's even more important that we have more transparency in the product that we're investing in, or even more so, the transparency in the product that is holding our money for investment. And so this is some of the things that we need to look at, especially as we get into reviewing exchanges. And so we've reviewed a number of different exchanges, over time. And now, as we're getting into this latest, which is going to be to review Binance, we're going to talk more about Binance US, but we're going to touch a little bit on Binance because there are some important things that weren't apparent, for one reason or another. And so that's what we're going to do today. So let's get into it. Just a quick note here. If you're coming into the room, as you come in, give a thumbs up if you enjoy the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, this goes for anyone that's coming into the live stream or anybody that's listening to the replay of the live stream. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. So that will be helpful. And if you haven't done so, or if you can do so, if you want to send out a tweet on it, that would be great. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to shoot out a live now on YouTube. Oops. And here we go. I'm going to send out a tweet, and you guys can respond to it. Saturday. There we go. I'm going to send that out. That's very cool. Boom. Live on the stream, we're sending out a tweet. So it just went out, and we should be pretty good with that. But yeah, David, that's funny. I'm not talking about Ripple today, so I find it difficult to put XRP in the title, Ripple in the title. I know that attracts some people looking for XRP. Yeah, I guess I'm not really going to get into the lawsuit today. That's the thing. I didn't read the case, their response. I didn't have a chance to read that yesterday. So, so that's how it goes. But yeah. Yeah, that's all right. I'm not. We're gonna get people watching it in the replay. So we're good with that. We don't need everybody here live on a early Saturday morning. So we're gonna jump into this. I want to get into. I want to get into at VeChain. Binance is listing it. Yeah. So VeChain could be interesting. That's something that we need to talk about. I think we'll do a review on everything that VeChain is doing and offering. Yeah, I do think that's definitely important. So let's look here. I want to um, let's see here. All right, so let me pull this up. I'm going to switch views. If we have any issue when I switch views, it'll definitely kick right back in. So I need to scroll up here, and we're going to jump into talking about Binance US. And then we're going to get into a few other things. Hey, Ali G, what's going on? And Crash Monkeys, by the way, man, I've been doing the burpee exercise. I've been throwing that in to my regular routines, and it's awesome. So I might do that instead of something else. But man, you're combining your cardio as well as getting decent upper body workout. But doing burpee squats with a weight, whether you can do something low like 15 pounds, 20 pounds, or even bump that up to 25 pounds. Man, it's awesome. I kind of mix it up a little bit, and you can mix it up with push-ups. You can do curls, overhead press, and then you can, if you do the burpee, in and out, and it's great, man. I love it. It's there's so much you can do with it. It's fantastic. Glad you shared that. All right, so let me see. Uh, just started a new crypto channel. Nice. Blockchain Monkeys. Man, that's awesome. Uh, we'll definitely got to check that out. Definitely want to check that out. So, all right, let me transition again. If it cuts off for a second, it'll be a split second, but hopefully the new upgrade OBS fixed this. But we're going to transition over, and we're going to start talking about Binance. So hang on, should be back. There should be like a momentary pause, and even yeah, look at that. We kind of overcame the momentary glitch, so that's awesome. All right. So there's a glitch in OBS, and it cuts my stream off, and if I don't start it up right away, then we're just dead completely. So let me see. IBM, Oracle, Google, and W are working with Chainlink. Chainlink had popped up. I was looking at Chainlink. I definitely want to get out more on what's going on with Chainlink. I think that's interesting. So all right. Let's get into reviewing Binance US, and we're also going to jump over to Binance. Now, there's some key things that we have to understand when we're looking at an international exchange, and I want to throw this out there right in the beginning, and then we'll come back to this multiple times, as we're talking. So first and foremost, on an international exchange, if an international meaning coming from the United States, not everybody that watches is watching from the U.S. I understand that people are over in Europe, people are over in Australia, people over in Singapore, Japan, anywhere. But from a U.S. perspective, working with a foreign exchange has multiple concerns. Number one, if you're using an international exchange, there is no way for them to get FDIC insurance or coverage. Now, Binance US, as a registered U.S. entity, still owned by Binance Global, there is a separation between the two. So Binance US, there are going to be certain expectations that we have with them moving forward, and I can make some expectation or maybe some assumptions, and I don't want to assume anything, but let's let's at least put some expectation on the ground, some ground rule that when Binance US is in full motion, that we're also starting to see them registering to get FDIC coverage insurance, meaning that any fiat currency that you hold on their exchange will be covered up to $250,000. Now, as with BitTrue, there are some concerns that I have with Binance, and I'm seeing that BitTrue is kind of built on the same with the same concept and the same framework as a Binance, almost like BitTrue is following in the steps of the big brother. Obviously, there's really no connection other than the fact that the color scheme looks the same, the logos look the same, or very similar, not exactly, but there's many eerie similarities between the way BitTrue was set up and Binance, and they're trying to follow the success path of Binance, which isn't bad. You want to follow in the path, but sometimes you got to do things your own way. Now, Binance has been around for a little while and has accumulated huge sums of money. So they're obviously very successful. They've built a monster, but and this is a big but, because I don't see it with Binance US, and we don't see it with Binance. Let's call it Binance Global. Now, one of the things that we were seeing though is that Binance is very clear and very transparent from a perspective of communication and communicating what they are attempting to do. But with that, one of the things that they've done is taken a path called SAFU, and SAFU is basically a self-insured model for just in case scenarios. So whereas if you look at Coinbase or or some of the others out there, that we've looked at, they're using third-party insurance providers like Locked-In or Lloyd's, or some of the others to help provide insurance coverage for those just-in-case scenarios. Plus, they're also engaging with third-party custodial providers like BitGo. So even the biggest of the biggest still need to make sure they're securing and supporting their data. I don't believe that it's really good enough to do a go it on your own type of situation. There needs to be some form of redundancies built in that are outside of the hands of the company that you're working with. So one of the weaknesses, in my perception, and strictly my opinion, but one of the weaknesses that I see with Binance, and I'm now seeing with Binance US, is that they're taking this go it on your own methodology of securing their funds. And I think this is relatively dangerous from a user's perspective. From a business perspective, I get it. You don't want to spend the countless amounts of money on an insurance coverage, when you can do it yourself. Now, when you have a BitTrue, which is relatively fledgling, trying to go a do-it-yourself type scenario for insurance, they don't have the accumulation of funds yet set aside to cover what they need to cover. Whereas Binance might have already reached a situation where they already have the funds and the coverage for these just-in-case scenarios. So they have a mechanism in this go it on your own. However, I think that that's still very disconcerting from an investor's perspective to then want to leave your digital asset on an exchange that is claiming to be self-insured. So if we look here, and this is carrying over to Binance US, and the one recommendation that I would have for Binance US is that since they're competing along the same lines of a Coinbase or an Uphold or a Gemini or any of the others, Binance US needs to compete in the same pool with their competition. You take a go at your own on your own self-insured mechanism, and I don't believe that you're going to see the same success And now I'm not talking about with a pool of investors now. I'm talking about the pool of mainstream investors that are going to be very astute as they're moving away from E-Trade and whatever. There's a whole host of them, but they're moving away to then want to invest in a digital asset. How are you going to make them feel confident and secure that you yourself are securing their funds? And now to do this, SAFU, the Secure Asset Fund for Users, is an emergency insurance fund. And so this was July 3rd they set this up, that they announced a Secure Asset Fund for Users. So we're talking about a little over a year ago. Now, how much money have they set aside for this just in case scenario? How much money and coverage does one of these third-party insurance providers provide? Is it 100 million? What is that number? Now, obviously, Binance, I don't want to say obviously, but there's a good chance that Binance has reached a point where they've set aside enough funds to be self-insured. The thing is, and to what I would want to see here, is a third-party auditor that comes in to audit the fact that they actually have the funds that are set aside in a separate cold wallet. But now that brings me to the next point, which goes back to the first initial point, which is, if we're looking at this right here, this fund will be stored in a separate cold wallet. Now, what does that mean exactly? Where is that going? Who's protecting it? That funding, shouldn't it be in the hands of a third party in some form of an escrow where you don't have, as the company, direct access to do with what you want with those funds, or do what you want with those funds? There should be a third party audit, or at the very least, put that into a custodial account, into a BitGo or something else, and find a mechanism to secure the wallets. And so that I believe is something that really needs to be addressed. Now remember, with when it comes to this, we're talking about keys. We're talking about securing and making sure that we're keeping this offline, that we're putting the keys offline, that we're putting the keys into a cold storage with some form of redundancy to make sure that they can't just disappear with it. Again, if something happens to CZ, like happened with Quadringa over in Canada, that all of a sudden they're like, oh, sorry, he was the only one that had access to the cold wallet. So I would like to see a little bit more information on that because it doesn't exist. I haven't seen it anywhere to state any form of redundancies or anything like that. Hey, Mama Lacey, it's been a long time. Good to see you on. Same with you, Citizen XRP. Glad to see you on. And yeah, I agree with that. And Ronald, man, glad that you're popping in and contributing. Yeah, so Bitrue definitely needs to fine tune their website. There's definitely some issues there that we discussed before. But this to me is a major issue. This is even more of a major issue when it comes to Bitrue and some of the smaller exchanges that have not been able to accumulate the kind of funds. But again, you still need a third-party audit. I don't feel personally comfortable investing in a fund that is self-insured. That's just me, So, I'd rather know that they're backed up by Locked In, they're backed up by Lloyd's, they're backed up by one of the major insurance providers in the world. Now, if you get to a certain point where, you can prove to your user base that you have the wherewithal to become third party or private insured, or self-insured, and have an auditor, that's a different scenario. But Binance has kind of dropped the ball on that third party audit, and I think they need to do that right away. So now as we get back into Binance US, we're still facing the same problem. Now again, as they're coming into this market, I have to believe, mainly because of the development that we've seen from Binance in such a short period of time. Binance has become, again, one of the largest exchanges in the world. So they have huge sums of money that are flowing through them. However, in the U.S. market, you have to compete with those in the market right now, and you have to make sure that you're doing everything, to make yourself stand out. So now one of the other things that really came to the forefront with Binance here is the fact that they did not launch in all states. So if you look here, Yahoo Finance, remember I talked about Yahoo Finance before, and Yahoo Finance is a great resource for finance. Not a paid not a paid endorsement whatsoever. I don't use Yahoo for anything, and except for the Yahoo Finance, because the Yahoo Finance engine is outstanding, and they're one of the first to add digital assets to their search engine, which is great, in the finance space. But here we have, the launching of Binance US. I think it's important also to note, and I pulled up, I think I do have it over here. So let's look at who is Coley, CEO Catherine Coley. So she took over from Binance. Now let's just show, so they're launching with 6 cryptocurrencies on the U.S. exchange. They're launching with BTC, ETH, XRP, BCH, LTC, and a stable coin. These are all being made available right now as we speak. Those are available on their exchange. Now, who is Catherine? Catherine Coley came from, now she's the CEO of BAM Trading. So Binance is partnered with BAM Trading, BAM Trading Services. That's important to note. And what we have here is that, where did she come from? She came from the head of XRP Institutional Liquidity. She was with she was with Ripple for 2 years, from 17 to 19, and she has a history here with banks, Silicon Valley Bank, an exchange advisor, Morgan Stanley. So she's done a decent amount foreign exchange sales and trading in Hong Kong from 2011. So she's relatively young, but she's been in this space in business. She's got, let's see, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Copenhagen Business School, Chinese University of Hong Kong, National University of Singapore. So, she's been around a little bit in poli-sci and in economics and business. So this is actually, decent education, to say the least. But now as she's moving from Ripple, where she focused on global liquidity networks, to Binance. So she's come from good background. And here again, she's CEO of Binance and BAM Trading Services. So a little bit of announcement in her experience here. It's kind of funny, explaining what Binance is right in her experience segment. So this is on LinkedIn. So, so let's jump back over again. So Binance US, they launch in the US and they're missing something. So what are they missing? They're missing 13 states. So will they overcome that? Yes, I believe they will. One thing that they've been very adept at is making sure that they navigate the proper, regulation. So from this perspective, there are certain states that are a little bit more difficult, and others have gone through the same. It's not just Binance, but others have gone through this in other platforms. If you look at Prosper, the P2P lending solution. Prosper went through a very similar rollout, and they had to roll out to groups of states at different times based on regulatory reasons. So that's one point. So 13 states are excluded. Those states are Alabama, Alaska, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Louisiana, North Carolina, New York, North Carolina, Texas, Vermont, and Washington. You cannot use Binance US. And in fact, when you log into Binance US, and it won't do it for me now, I don't think, but when you log into Binance US, there's a pop-up that you get that specifically states, and I doubt that, let me see if they'll let it open here. Hang on a second. Let's try this. Being that I'm already logged into it, it probably won't do it, but let's see. So when we go right to their main homepage, originally it gave me a pop-up. No, it's not doing it now. So it probably already registered the cookies or whatever. So, but it gave me a pop-up that specifically stated that we're not in all states. Basically, when you go through the KYC, if you're not in that state, you're not going to be allowed to register for the Binance US or use their platform. And then if you find a way to bypass it, then that might be a major issue for you. So from a legal perspective, and I thought I saw David D throw something up here. Here we go. There's a big difference between being able to use an exchange and legally being able to use it. Two different things. So you can technically have the capability of using it, similar to Bitrue. Technically, you can use it. Legally, being able to use it is a different story. And that's something that I don't believe, again, go back to Bitrue, I don't believe that they've shown without, without any doubt that you can use Bitrue in all the states, other than making that statement and changing the statement. I don't believe that they're following all the regulatory criteria. And if Binance US is doing a rollout like this and Bitrue did not do a rollout like this, then you really need to think and question, why is it that they didn't do a rollout like that? Why did they exclude all of the U.S.? And then when people questioned it, then they were inclusive of all of the U.S. I think there's some definite issue there with KYC and AML that's not being disclosed. Now, according, again, based on David D., so technically you can use it. Legally, being able to use it is a different story. If you're trading on an exchange not cleared in your country or state, you are likely violating the exchange terms of service, which you are 100% violating the terms of service. Now, you're also violating other country-related or state-related regulation, so that's something else to really take into concern as to why is it that these states were not allowing them to register for one reason or another, and who's responsible then at that point? Is it the user that's responsible, or is it the exchange that's responsible, or are they both responsible parties? If the exchange is going to acknowledge that you can't, they've covered their ass. Now, if you find a way around it, you didn't cover your ass. So now not only are you in breach of their terms of service, but you're in breach of other things as well, potentially. I don't know. That's something that you got to look into yourself. I just say be very careful and try not to circumvent. There's no reason to when there's other exchanges out there. David D. BNB was also added as an approved token via a CZ tweet after the article came out. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I think BNB, and then there's something else we're going to talk a little bit about, which is Venus. Their Venus, shoot, I pulled that up on my phone. We'll have to pull it up on the computer. We'll get into that. Let's see. You're correct. Texas and New York appear to be the toughest states to get approved for most exchanges. That's 100% accurate. Texas or New York is definitely one of the most difficult. I'm just kind of going down some of these comments. I like these comments you're throwing up here. Fact, Jeff, Bitrue is playing in the gray area while other exchanges are trying to become compliant. That's what concerns me. I agree 100%. You don't play in the gray area. If you want to be legit, then you do it legit. If you want to be, if you want to play in the gray part of the sandbox, that's up to you. I'm not going to risk my assets, my money on your exchange if you're going to play in the gray part of the sandbox. It doesn't make any sense. Do it the right way. Be compliant. Be transparent. And make sure that you're insured with and third party audited, which Binance isn't. So let's put that out there. So Binance is self-insured through their SAFU, and so being self-insured is something that we should definitely be concerned with. Texas XRP. I'm in Texas, but I'm able to use Coinbase and Kraken. Why is that? Because Coinbase and Kraken are approved in all 50 states. So you can use Coinbase anywhere in the country. You can use Coinbase in most countries throughout the world. Bitrue and Binance, or Binance just is not approved yet. Coinbase is also FDIC insured. So if you put US dollars on the Coinbase exchange, you're covered just like in a bank. If you go down to Bank of America or SunTrust or Chase Bank and you put up to $250,000 in your account in that bank, you're covered. Same thing with Coinbase. You put $250,000 cash USD in their exchange, you're covered. So that's important. As as a U.S. citizen, that's key. You're outside the U.S., you're not getting FDIC insurance. However, there are comparable types of insurance out there that do provide that. Plus, then you have extra layers. So, like with Coinbase, I don't remember which one I think they're using locked in. That's what I was trying to look for. But Coinbase, for instance, and we need to dig in and review them a little bit more. I'm trying to pull this up to see which insurance provider they're using above and beyond, but they're also using BitGo. So the fact that they're using BitGo as custodial, and some of the other big ones. Let me see here. I'm scrolling down. Guided values, hiring team, support. Take a second to dig through all of this. There's a lot, but Coinbase is doing some really amazing things with Coinbase Pro and some other. It's a different conversation, different topic. So obviously these are, and I had to just throw these out here because, these are definitely, points to be concerned with right off the bat. Now, is Binance an amazing exchange platform? I think Binance is outstanding. The technology that they present, if we look at their platform, their basic, their advanced, market platforms, are just fantastic to use. I like it. And I kind of like what they've accomplished. From an entrepreneurial perspective, it's really, really impressive. From a market perspective, look at the trading pairs. So, like I said, BNB is up here. So it's really interesting what they're bringing to the table right off the bat. They're bringing some of the more important top currencies right off the bat. They're using the Binance US is using the same exact platform. I don't know exact. Maybe there's some minor differences of Binance, and so it's just nice that you can put your TAs up here if you do a technical analysis, and you have all sorts of different mechanisms that that you want to use. So it's great. So I really like all the from this perspective, it makes it nice. You have your stop limits if you want to trade. It has everything that you need to become a trader, but the concerns still stand. And those are some pretty big concerns. So David D, Binance self-insurance is definitely a concern, and I applaud you pointing that out. I do question whether exchanges are really FDIC insured because I thought that was for cash. 100% only cash. FDIC coverage is for cash. So Coinbase being FDIC insured is only covering cash, US dollar cash that's held on their exchange up to $250,000, not Bitcoin, not XRP, nothing like that. They're not insuring that. However, that's why they use BitGo. That's why they're using external cold wallet resources. That's also why they cover additional insurance. So in case something does happen, they have mechanisms in place. So those are all important aspects. Binance US is a secure platform. I do believe that they're secure in terms of state-of-the-art technology to secure the asset because they built this international mechanism in place to decrease hacking. But still, there's still those big howevers of having the third-party audit and the third-party cold storage in custody. Now, fast, man, it's definitely world class. They definitely have a world class engine, and they've definitely here. We look at 1.4 million orders per second. They definitely set that up. So Binance US still going with a similar approach. They've got through the API. You can, buy, everything, start trading today. We looked at their market, a little bit about Binance US. So I still think, again, they're missing some things. It is good. They're operated by BAM Trading Services, which is out of San Francisco. There's, we don't have to keep rehashing, but we've already pointed out what we'd like to see. And I would like to see that before keeping anything on their exchange. If you want to use their exchange, that's different. Buy, move it, take it off. But at this point, I wouldn't, just me personally, I wouldn't want to leave anything on the exchange. Now you get into terms of service, like David was bringing up. Yeah, if you want to be in breach of terms of service, then you definitely can be. So these are their disclosures. This type of statement is so critical as you go through and have some full disclosure. So collection, verification, and recordation of identifying information. So they need to comply with U.S. AML, CFT legal requirements, BAM trading services, doing business as Binance US. They'll obtain, verify, and record information that identifies each customer and counterparty attempting to establish an account with us. So that just know they're doing everything they can to establish the AML as well as KYC. So compliance with sanctions. We need to know that they're complying with U.S. sanctions and sanctions, based in the U.S., UK, the EU, the UN Security Council. They need to abide. So as a result, they'll not establish direct or indirect relationship with any person or entity that is the target of any such sanction, or does business is located, is organized, or is resident in countries or territory that is, or whose government currently is the target of countrywide sanctions imposed by any U.S. government sanction authority. So that's key. So they'll not trade with any person or entity that does business, is located, is organized, or is a resident of Belarus, Burundi, Central African Republic, Cuba, DR, Congo, Iran, Iraq, Libya, North Korea, Russia, Somalia, Syria, South Sudan, Venezuela, Yemen, and Zimbabwe. So these are countries that were picked out. That's just how it is. So now the risk, they put a risk disclosure. So that's important. That you're taking the risk. They're not regulated. I think that's important to look at, right? Virtual currency is not legal tender, is not backed by the government, and accounts and value balances are not subject to FDIC FDIC Insurance Corporation, or Securities Investor Protection Corporation protections. So that needs to be acknowledged, because that's true whether it's on Binance or even Coinbase. So you brought that up. Yes, your cash is covered. However, your currency is not. So that's very important to understand. So you guys can get through and read this. It's also good to see last revised. Obviously, it's brand new, but last revised as of September 18, 2019. Oh, it's good to see that they're, keeping things lively. The BAM platform, you can get on, doing business as Binance. So BAM, which is identified as BAM, is now doing business as Binance US. So that's an important criteria to understand. The different selling. Then they really get into definitions. So I think it's important, if you want to go on there, understanding the trading rules, understanding what their statements are, specifically what their definition is. So if they're using definition anywhere on their exchange, that you understand exactly what that means. What is a linked wallet? What is a linked fiat wallet? What is a linked crypto wallet, etc. Limit order. You should know these things before you trade, invest, do anything. Understand the terminology. Understand what their definition of the terminology is, just in case it's different from the norm, which probably isn't. Understanding, if you're going to get into trading, understand what a stop order is, understand what their definition is, understand what a stop market order is if you're going to engage in that. If you're going to engage in anything that's a little bit high risky, you definitely are high risk investment, which right now they don't, they're not doing anything beyond the norm. But now you get into trading on the central order book. So if you want to understand orders, limit orders, market orders, you can really dig in. Now this is important too, market integrity. All trades are final. I think this is key, because if you make a trade subject to clause 4.2 below, all fills are final, and no trader shall have the right to reverse or cancel any transaction or fill That's how they keep integrity. That's how they maintain credibility. Now, if there is a reversal, cancellation, modification, and or disregard of trade, this is interesting, right? So BAM may, in its sole and absolute discretion, reverse, cancel, modify, and or disregard any transaction, fill, order, or instruction under any circumstance and or for whatever reason or no reason whatsoever, including but not limited to where, and then they get into it, right? BAM is compelled, right? They're compelled to do so by applicable law or regulation. Interesting. Due to a technical error, of course. If there's a technical error, you better believe they should have the ability to reverse it because that wasn't a fair trade. Orders placed by traders who, in our sole discretion, have engaged in abusive use of the platform. Right? What's abusive use? Let's see, market manipulation. They're going to reverse your trade. Or using the API in a manner which unreasonably burdens their platform. Orders which involve an obvious error with respect to price. Obviously, that needs to be addressed. Technical reasons, I think they really address that. Access and interruptions. They talk about false trading and market manipulation is prohibited. So let's make sure that nobody engages in anything like that. Flash crashes and circuit breakers. The BAM platform does not use circuit breakers or automated trading halts. So that's important. Misleading statements. Traders are prohibited from making false or misleading statements or disseminating information that is false or misleading. I think that's really key. I'm glad they really did a pretty good. They do their due diligence here from a legal perspective. Trading on their platform, holding anything on their platform without insurance. If you put U.S. Fiat currency in an exchange and it's not backed up by FDIC, that everyone's risk adverse levels is a little bit different. So you got to do what's good for you. BAM corporate operations. BAM, which owns and operates a BAM platform or any of its affiliates, may also trade on the BAM platform. So that's interesting. Employee access. Look at this. BAM's policies prohibit all BAM's employees from using inside corporate or proprietary information. Remember what happened with Coinbase early on? There was some big issues there with BCH. Scheduled downtime, market makers, obligation of market makers. If you find yourself in such a position, suspension and restrictions of market makers. And that's it. So this is really good stuff. Most people don't take the time to go through and read this, but it's really interesting, to figure out what it is that they're actually putting in place. And so I think that's important. Now, we also get to this. And so this is sitting here looking over this laptop. So linked wallet addendum. Prime Trust LLC. So the linked wallet addendum sets out the additional terms and conditions. So this is so look at this. BAM Trading, which is a Delaware corporation, operated by Prime Trust. So in relation to a third-party linked wallet, so a third party that's operated by Prime Trust, a Nevada corporation. Let's see. Definition. So they define the platform or the wallet. You get into that, and then general. Okay, user authorization. You hereby authorize BAM and its employees or agents in relation to your linked wallet and your utilization of the service to, among other things, access and view the balance of all transaction information. Freeze or instruct PT to freeze further credit or debit to or from the linked wallet due to your breach of the user agreement or breach of applicable law. So remember what David was saying, breaking their terms of service right here. When are we giving them access to our information? Well, if you're in breach of the user agreement or breach of applicable law, or if there's suspicion of money laundering, terrorism financing, or if there are breaches of anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism policies, etc., use of your data of information obtained through PT for purposes of affecting transactions on the BAM platform. So here you may only withdraw revoked authorization described in clause 2.1 above upon closure of your BAM account in accordance with a process set on in clause 2.8. So you need to close your account to revoke any authorization thereof from their employee base. I think that's important. We should, and this, when you get into any of these other exchanges, they all have very similar type of verbiage, even, stock, when you're trading stock, so that's important to understand. Minimum amounts. You shall maintain such minimum amount, a minimum account in the linked wallet as BAM may from time to time, in its sole and absolute discretion, require. So they might tell you, hey, you know what? You don't have enough in your minimum account. We're going to close your account. So BAM has the sole discretion to make that determination and to change it. So here at any time by notification to you, they have complete discretion. No previous minimum amount requirements shall set a precedent or bind BAM for varying the minimum amount. If BAM determines that the minimum amount shall be increased, then you shall pay into the linked wallet such additional amounts as may be necessary within 3 business days. Or BAM has the right to suspend, terminate the services available to you pursuant to clause 7.1. Look at that. So just no, and this isn't anything unique, but I think it's important that you look at this and staying compliant. It's good just to understand a little bit. Now, from a withdrawal perspective, what's the fee structure? The general cost of fee, 0.1% trading fees. Right now, there are no trading fees, or there won't be. What did they say? So November 1st, 0 fees for all trading pairs before November 1st. Let's see, complete basic verification, $5,000 equivalent in crypto. So these are the withdrawal limits. So you have to go through complete advanced verification. You can move $1 million withdrawal per day equivalent in crypto. Complete fiat account verification, withdraw up to $1,000 or ACH or $1 million with wire. So they're setting up the platform nicely for all of these reasons to quickly move your assets in and off the exchange. Very important. Minimum withdrawal, 1. Minimum deposit fee right now, 0. Withdrawal fee, 0. That's with USD. 100 if you wire it. The withdrawal fee for a wire is $15, covering the cost of the wire. ACH is 0. Minimum withdrawal via wire is 100. That's fiat. And then they go down the list with crypto. Minimum withdrawal Bitcoin 0.001. XRP is 2. You can withdraw 2. You can't move just 1 XRP. You can move 2 minimum. So that's interesting to look at. Then we get into FAQs. FAQs, I didn't find anything interesting here. Again, I want more transparency from an exchange. I believe that we deserve a little bit more transparency. I think we're lacking a little bit here in these FAQs. I don't think they're giving enough information, similar to what we were talking about with BitTrue. I just think we need, more data, for sure. Definitely more data. Let me go back up. David D, if you appreciate the AML KYC CTF is requiring social security numbers or tax ID numbers, EIN numbers, in addition to passport, driver's license, government ID, and a proof of address document. They're building it with FATF and U.S. compliance in mind. Yep, exactly. It's important. It's definitely they're doing all the right things. So I'm not going to extract that. Definitely Binance is on the right path with what they're putting together. They're definitely doing the right things across the board. So that's what's interesting. Now it's just a matter of we're in the U.S. market, and how are you balancing out competition? So if you have competition like Uphold and you have competition like Coinbase and others, what is the enticement for people to come over to Binance, if you're self-insured and you're not providing the same level of support and protection, let's say, as a Coinbase that's also based in the U.S. Now, another point, and I don't know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to this yet, based on Binance with BAM Trading, a Delaware corporation. I can make an assumption here, but this is something for a CPA or an accountant to determine. Again, I can only make an assumption, is that if you're trading on Binance.com, not Binance.us, but if you're trading on Binance.com, any international exchange that you have digital asset held on, if you have $10,000 or more, you need to report that when you file your taxes. And that's $10,000 in holdings in general anywhere in the world. If you have $10,000 or more sitting in an account somewhere, you need to report that on your taxes. If you have $10,000 or more sitting in Binance.com, now you probably won't, or another international exchange, that needs to be reported. So that's important to note. Now, Binance US, as a BAM Trading, as a Delaware entity, US-based entity, most likely you will not have to report anything. So it'll be interesting to see. That's a question for a CPA or an accountant to answer. Definitely not for me, because I rely on accountants and CPAs. So let's see. Oh, yo, Chip, what's up, man? Glad you came in to catch the tail end of the stream. Also, we've got SPF, Silhouette Park Farm, all the way in from Australia. Great to see you bouncing in. George Pacheco just joined in. See who else bounced in with some comments here. We got Blockchain Monkeys, also Crash Monkeys. So that's why Celsius Network is using BitGo. Exactly. So I think that's a great point. When we get back into again, third-party custodials, and also what I don't see here anywhere on Binance is third-party audit. Now, again, if you want to look at it from a perspective of, the Bitcoin maxi idea of banks are going to go away, then we're trying to get away from banks, and, we're not dealing with banks anymore, and all of that, then that's a different story. We're talking about mainstream adoption. Mainstream adoption is inclusive of banks. Banks is a relative term to wherever you keep your money. So Coinbase, for all intents and purposes at this point, is becoming a bank, and we're seeing those lines blur. So that's important. Ronald, what's up, man? I saw you on earlier too. I'm glad that you made it on the stream, and that you could participate. So, and XRP Minute did bring up that OTC is rolling out this week, and that is true. We're actually recording. I hope we record a video tomorrow. And it's going to be on a pretty well-known YouTuber that I'm sure all of you guys follow and have followed. And so we're going to roll that video out on his channel. We're recording tomorrow, and then when we release it, we'll do it as a premiere, so we'll be able to answer questions and chat as we go. So looking forward to that. What's up, Wildstar? Coming in a little bit late. We got some Chinese bamboo in here as well. So man, we got everyone bouncing in. So it's great. Almost thinking that 8 o'clock time spot's a hard time spot for everyone to get to, depending on what part of the country you're in and what part of the world. So, for me, it works well because I wrap up, and then from here we go and play tennis. So works out. So anyhow, this was back in February, and this goes back to Binance, and we mentioned SAFU again. I just want to, point this out because we talked about it in the beginning, talked about it kind of throughout, but we have people that bounced in, towards the end here. And when we talk about self-insurance, Binance is self-insured. So Binance is self-insured, as BitTrue is attempting to be self-insured. And the concern with being self-insured is who's auditing that insurance. And you need to have something in place. I haven't seen anything from Binance to indicate that they have a third-party audit mechanism auditing the 10% that they're putting into a self-insured cold storage. And so that's their statement. And we don't know how much they've put in up to this point, but we'd like to know, obviously, the size they are, the amount of money they have. They could do it. Financially speaking, I would make an assumption, but it needs to be audited, and they haven't done that. But what does it mean? When it comes to security, many people think of Binance as the most secure cryptocurrency in the world. What drives the perception of our security? We achieve it through relentless efforts to safeguard our entire platform. See, to me, and I really went into this with BitTrue. It's not enough for me if you say it, because if you say it doesn't make it a fact. It just makes it a statement on the internet, on your blog, on a report, in an article. It's not enough. There's not enough information on the Binance security protocol. Maybe there's a white paper somewhere that I haven't seen. But if you look at some of these other platforms, they put it into, just simple speak, for a common, the common non-tech person to be able to read and understand. And this isn't it. I still have a concern about Binance that they're not transparent with their tech. I don't care if they say they have top-notch security in action. It's just not enough. You can't just say it. And this is exactly what I talked about with BitTrue, that they don't have enough information to prove that they're secure. And it's the same thing here. You haven't presented enough information to prove that you're secure, other than being around for 2 years now and having very little issues. So I think that's important to see from a practical perspective. But again, let's see it in black and white. Let's see the text to show that everything is on the up and up. And the same thing again with that third party. Man, that's fine. You want to self-insure? You want to go with SAFU and self-insure my assets? Prove to me that you have X amount of dollars in that SAFU fund, and prove to me that it's third-party audited. So look, and just making, again, statements. I don't care about statements, from your article about someone that lost something and you backed it up. Hey, that's great, but maybe you depleted your fund and now you have no more money left. Or what happens when you go down and let's say that's the end of your company? What comfort do I have that you're going to back it up? I don't. I don't. You're managing the third party wallet. And I don't think that's right. If you want to self-insure, put that into escrow where you can't tap into it, so that money is always available in case something happens. I think that's a huge mistake on Binance's side. As I mentioned with BitTrue, self-insure, but you can't manage your self-insured wallet. That doesn't make any sense to me. So here he said, the amount of security efforts going on in exchange is not easy to imagine. Here's an example. Binance Big Data AI system preventing a user who got SIM swapped, email and 2FA both hacked from losing his 46. That's awesome. I love that statement. I'm glad that happened. That's fantastic. But tell us more, and maybe it's there. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't know. Let's see. They teach about cryptography in their academy, but they don't teach us anything about their cryptography. So I need to know, man. I want to know more about not general security principles in general. I don't care about a DOS attack. I can read about this stuff. I don't care about pyramid and Ponzi schemes. What I do care about, BitTrue or Binance, is what you're doing about it. I want to know about what your general security principles are. I want to know what you're going to be doing against a DOS attack. I want to know what you're doing to prevent pyramid and Ponzi schemes. That's what I want to know, because I'm investing on your platform. Again, it's not enough to make these statements. So look what they're saying here. We want to ensure that each person using our exchange and each asset entrusted to us are protected, even in the unlikelihood that our security measures may fail. Okay, that's an awesome statement. So they created the SAFU fund and began allocating 10% of all trading fees received into this fund to provide insurance to the potential breaches. Now, again, Binance is in a position where we can make an assumption that they have hundreds of millions of dollars to put into this fund, and they're taking 10%. What is that number now? We need to know. Give us a number. Tell us we're carrying insurance up to $100 million. We're carrying insurance up to $200 million. We're self-insured up to $500 million. I don't know. What is that number, and who's auditing it, and what escrow is it in? That's what we need to know. Then they get into, it's a little bit, to me, and I'm not saying it is in any way, shape, or form, but what I'm saying is it looks a little bit like sleight of hand. It's like those guys with the 3 cups on the street, and they're moving their ball from cup to cup, and you're trying to figure out which cup it's under. It's a little bit of that. It's also a little bit of the magician that's over here moving something into his right hand, but he's like, hey, what do I have over here in my left hand? And that's what Binance and Bitrue are essentially doing by talking about, oh, look, hey, see, we're self-insured over here, but hey, let me tell you about general security principles and DOS attacks, and let me explain to you about why public Wi-Fi is insecure, and how do you secure your cryptocurrency, and here's my academy to tell you all about it, and here's what I'm saying, but nothing, no meat to the statements. To me, that's a red flag, and it's very disconcerting. I think it's a little disconcerting to those that are investing and using the platform, that really you need to step up. And I'm not questioning whether or not Binance actually has it. I'm questioning whether or not, if they really have it, why aren't they presenting it? So that is the big concern that I have with them in general. Now that they're in the U.S. market, you better damn well present your case the right way. Otherwise your exchange isn't going to go anywhere. That's my prediction, because if you're going to compete again against a Coinbase or an Uphold that is coming forward with everything and making their statement and making their claim, you've got to do the same thing. That's my perspective, and I could be 100% wrong with that, that Binance is going to blow up, but what if something does go drastically wrong and the whole thing comes tumbling down and implodes? What's backing it up? Right now we don't see anything. So let's, I want to see Binance really step forward with something strong, just like Bitrue. They need to present their case as to why their statements that they're making are accurate, statements. So, but again, from a regulatory perspective, Binance is doing everything right from every other perspective, hiring the right CEO for Binance US. Merging in with BAM trading services to make sure that, not launching in all states to make sure they're compliant. And they want to make sure they're getting, they're complying with all scrutiny from the SEC and the CFTC. So, being transparent and communicative with your audience through Twitter, through Periscope, like CZ does. Making sure that you have a solid trading platform that people can rely on. Making sure that you have the right terms and conditions and disclosures in place, so you understand the risk that you're taking, and, sticking to the letters of the law. Making sure that you understand all the trading rules. All those things are critical. Settlement of trades, minimum amounts, and et cetera, et cetera. All those things, they've, really hit it, with everything else. But you guys know where we stand on the other parts of it. So let me, we're in an hour already. I'm going to wrap it up. Really appreciate all you guys for being on today. Looking forward to doing another review. Probably not next Saturday. Try to get a review out maybe before then. I'm not sure what the schedule is going to be this week, but if I can get a review out for next week at some point, but I will be doing some traveling. So when I'm traveling, it'll be interesting if I can get some videos going where I'm going to be. So that'll be great. Ronald says, yeah, Mt. Gox screwed me out of my BTC years ago. It still hurts. Yeah, man. You always got to, make sure you're very, very observant and cognizant of where you're putting your money. DNI, what's up, man? Glad you made it in the stream. A lot of shout outs here. People I haven't seen before. Simi.g. Why would anyone use this over Bitrue? Why? for all the reasons we just explained. But you're right. From that perspective, why would one use one over the other? Binance or Bitrue. I think Binance speaks for itself, but that's a interesting point. If we look at it, why wouldn't they use a Coinbase or anything like that? So glad you guys bounced in. If you guys are new to the stream, make sure that you like the video. Make sure you guys subscribe. If you guys want to be notified, make sure you hit the bell. And just another reminder, this week we will be rebranding the HODL Review. So the name of this channel will be changing. However, the HODL Review segment will remain. So we'll still be doing the HODL reviews, but the name and branding of the channel is getting ready to change and it's going to be awesome. We're definitely looking forward to this. What we're going to present coming this week, you guys, I believe, are going to love it. There's a huge room for growth. There's going to be some amazing things happening and coming in the near future. So anyhow, glad you guys joined in. Have an awesome weekend. Have an awesome Saturday. And we'll check you out on the next video or stream. See ya.